Hey, what's up? My name is Yotam. Welcome to my Solidworks exercises for beginners. In today's exercise 1.2, we will be practicing some of the tools that we learned in my first tutorial by creating the Model Mania 2009 part from Solidworks. So before I get started, I'd like to look at the part drawing and decide how I'm going to approach this part, what kind of features I'm going to create and such. So from what I see, there's two large cylinders on this part, and I'm going to start by creating those. And there's a path that connects the two, so I'm going to follow up by creating this path, and then after I create the path, I'll create the rib that you see running from the two cylinders, and I will follow that up by creating the tapped hole that's on the larger cylinder, and then creating the draft, the 4-degree draft, which is on the entire part, and then creating the fillets. So to get started, I'm going to go ahead, go to File, New, Part, OK. Now I have my default units of measurement set to IPS, but this part is in millimeter gram second, so I'm going to change my default to that for now. And then I'm going to go to my top plane, Sketch, select the circle tool, and I'm just going to start creating the basic geometry without worrying too much about the dimensions for now. Select the line tool. So you'll notice next to my cursor there are some yellow squares that pop up, and those are the constraints that I'm applying directly onto my sketch as I'm sketching it. So you'll see just now I've got two that popped up next to mine. One of those is the coincident relation, and the other one is the tangent relation. So that's just an interesting thing to notice, and it's useful because that way you don't have to go back into the sketch and select multiple entities to create the relations that you want. For example, right now I have to create these tangent relations because I didn't put them as I was sketching them originally. And as you can see on this line, the tangent relations already exist. So now to apply some of the dimensions, first I'm going to make these 2 points horizontal. Smart dimension, 125 millimeters. This is a 60 millimeter diameter. And this one has a 45 millimeter diameter. This one will be 15, and this one will be 20. So now that I've fully defined my sketch, I can go ahead and apply some features. I'm going to start by extruding the larger cylinder, and I'm just going to select the entire circular contour. I'm not going to worry about the hole in the center right now. That's because later on when I extrude my path that connects the two cylinders, I'm going to be extruding that straight through the cylinders, and I'm going to have to apply an extruded cut feature to clear the holes throughout the center anyway, so I might as well just extrude the entire block for now. So these are 40 millimeters tall. And if I show the sketch, I can apply another extrude feature. This is 20 millimeters tall, and this one is offset, so I'm going to go to the From selection, Offset, by 30 millimeters, and reverse that direction. Check. So now I've created my two cylinders, and I'm going to go to my front plane, Sketch, Control 8, and create the path. So I'm going to start the path from the center of each cylinder, because that's the way it's defined in the drawing. And make sure that this has the midpoint constraint. You can once again see that little yellow square next to my cursor has the midpoint icon on it. So I'm going to select that midpoint and escape the tool. So now I'm going to make this horizontal. And this line is 40 millimeters long. And this line is 50 millimeters long. So you'll notice that the sketch that I've created here, because these lines are tangent, they extend past the midpoint of this cylinder. So if I stopped the path at the midpoint, then part of the path itself would get cut off at around where my cursor is. You can see that this part here would not get extruded because I'm only extruding my path up to the halfway point of the cylinder. So I want to extend that. I'm going to press Control 8 again. And I'm just going to extend that all the way to the end, and we'll cut off the excess later in our extruded cut feature. All right. So now I'm going to create an extruded feature You notice I didn't create a shaded geometry. I still just have a thin line that has no shaded geometry, and I'm going to create an extruded feature based off of that. And if I have my extruded thin feature selected, then it creates this geometry that I can, first of all, I'm going to set to through all. And what through all does is it just extends the extrude all the way to the widest part of the model. So you can see it's gone to the widest part of the cylinder, and that's what I want in this case. And I'm going to select the two directions, so it'll go in both directions. And this is supposed to be 6 millimeters, so select 6 millimeters, and I'm going to flip that direction because I want it to be on that side. All right, check. So now I'm going to create my extruded cut feature to get rid of the circles that are supposed to be, the holes that are supposed to be in the center of the cylinders, and also get rid of the excess path. So to do that, I'm going to select this sketch, the original sketch, and create an extruded cut feature. And I'm going to select this little thing here called flip side of cut, flip side to cut. And what this does is instead of deleting the geometries that I select, it keeps them. So I'm going to select these three geometries here and through all both, and only the parts that are selected are going to be kept. Everything else is going to be deleted. And you'll see that when I press check. And there we go. And there's something that I forgot on the path. If I just go back into edit the sketch, I forgot to apply my fillets. So I'm Control 8. I'm going to use the fillet tool in the sketch and select these two corners. And they were 20 millimeter fillets. Check. And escape. And you'll see my feature will automatically update. There we go. So now I'm going to create my rib. To do that, I'm going to go to my front plane again, sketch, Control 8, and I'm going to convert this line here, convert entities, and that'll basically bring a entity from the body that I've created into the sketch I'm currently working on. And I'm going to turn this into construction geometry and then offset it. And offset this by 25 millimeters in the other direction. Check. And just break these constraints here. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create these two lines here, and I'm not going to worry about connecting them to the offset entity for now. You'll see that when I use my fillet tool, my sketch fillet tool, if I select these two lines, it'll automatically connect them, which is super convenient. I don't have to worry about applying any constraints, and it'll just do that for me, and it's fully defined. So now, finished using that tool, and I'm going to go into my features and select the rib feature. So this rib needs to be 6 millimeters wide, and yep, so that's all I need to do, and just extrude it, create the feature, and you'll see it's created the rib that I want. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to apply the tapped hole that's supposed to be in this larger cylinder by using the hole wizard tool. So I'm going to start by making sure I have the correct units of measurement, which in this case I want the ANSI metric. Then I'm going to create a tapped hole, and the size is going to be M10 x 1.25. And I want these conditions, these end conditions, to both be up to next. Then I'm going to go to position. I'm going to select this cylindrical face, and I'm just going to click on a point for my hole, escape, and then I'm going to dimension this to where I want it to be. So I'm going to select on that point, and I'm going to select my front plane, and then I'm going to add the on-plane relation, and that way it just makes sure that it stays vertical on the origin. So check. And then I'm going to create the height by selecting this point and selecting the bottom face, and this needs to be 20 millimeters high. Check. And that's it. So now I can just press check, and it'll create the hole for me. All right. Okay, so now that I've applied my draft, all that's left is to create the fillets. But before I do that, something about this cylinder looks a little off to me, so I'm just going to make sure I have the correct size for that diameter selected. And it looks like I've inputted 20, and the actual diameter is 25, so I need to change that. And if I have Instant 3D selected, I can just click on the feature, double-click this dimension, enter 25, enter, and that should update. And now you might notice that the geometry didn't change at all, and that's because I need to rebuild some of these features. And to do that, I just have to select the rebuild tool, and it'll update all the features that needed to be updated, and you'll see that it's changed to the correct size, so now I can apply my fillets. And I'm going to select some faces to apply fillets. That's just a faster way of doing it, and these need to be 2mm fillets. If you want to see a preview of your fillets, make sure you have this button selected right here, full preview, and just select more edges. All right. Make sure I haven't missed any that need to be selected. Make sure I have all the ones that are selected in the drawing. That looks good. I'm going to apply them. All right, and now if I'd like, I can apply some appearances. So if I go to this part of my screen, I'm going to drag this, make it a bit wider. Go through appearances. Let's add some medium gloss plastic appearances. I'll set the entire body to yellow, and I'll set just the fillets to red. And I can go in here and edit the shade. If I right-click on this, edit appearance, and let's select a slightly lighter shade of red. There we go. So that'll be it for today's tutorial. I hope you guys found it informative. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments below, and I'll be sure to answer them. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.